right, so I had lots of requests from friends and family to talk about the healthcare to riches plan, and here it is. First, we start with the healthcare and the $742 billion that we're wasting because the healthcare system was last optimized in 1960s. And we know so much about human body, health, and disease that was not known back then. I mean, we at least know that we have one more brain, and that's called the enteric brain, and it's in our guts. And that was really recently discovered, and that's just the iceberg, tip of the iceberg. There's so many other things that we know right now. And the one thing that all this new knowledge is pointing to is that long-term care, preventive care, the things that you do to take care of your body, to reduce the amount of stress in your life, that is the number one resource to fight disease. And in the United States, the healthcare system is developed completely opposite. We've based our system so that people go to hospitals or caregivers in a very quick one-time or very brief periods. They get their interventions and they get out. In the world, United States is the country that spends the most on healthcare, and we're the sickest nation when compared with other nations who are developed like we are. They live longer, they're healthier, they have less chronic diseases, and they're happier. We have suicide rates that are unprecedented in comparison with other nations. And we've known that there's something wrong with our healthcare system for decades. Nobody has been able to do something about it, but we've known and talked about it, done research about it. So it's time to do something about it. It's time to stop suffering, and it's time to take action. And if our leaders aren't going to do this, we, the citizens, can do this, because preventive care is all about staying on course, staying motivated, and getting the right information, accurate information about your health and well-being. Once we save that money, we can invest some of it to people, the people who protect us, the police officers, the teachers. They're protecting our children's minds. They're important too. And our military, our veterans, our foreign service officers. We really underestimate the power of foreign relations, despite the fact that we're living in a very connected world where, we can't really isolate ourselves from other countries. Otherwise, we won't have any leverage, the hard-earned leverage that generations before us have built in the world. If you can't tell China, hey, let's work on this health issue that you're having over there so that it doesn't reach our country, then what good is a government for, right? The government is there to make these kinds of negotiations. And the people in the government who do those things are our foreign service workers, and they need to be respected and treated with dignity, and they need to earn the amount of money that they're qualified for, at least. So anyway, the rest of the money we can invest in renewable energy. So you see, we get our electrical energy from combustible fuels right now, and that's really destroying the earth. It's destroying our health. And when people use nuclear energy, I'm told that they're safe. honestly, I don't understand how nuclear energy is safe. I mean, we have huge accidents that have happened so far, and for decades, those accidents are making the environment unlivable, and they're causing millions of people to have cancer. I understand that the accidents might not happen very frequently, but once they do, they're like, so anyway, your judgment, not mine. For myself, I would say safety is important. And when you have something like solar energy, wind energy, why would you even put yourself at risk and try other things? So I would invest my money on those things. And once I do, eliminate my need for combustible fuels for electricity in residential areas, in the industry, and then I can get $1.1 trillion. First, invest in people. Just a little bit maybe, but invest in people. People are important. We Americans are devoted to the importance of human life. Every single human life is important for us. I think we need to not just say this, but actually put it into our policies. I would invest some of it in people, in infrastructure, in internet, because internet is like, for me, it's been a lifesaver. Even if you're in the middle of a desert, if you have internet, you're connected to people. It means safety. It means business opportunities. It means education. It means self-expression. It means self-development. And I see that people around this country can't access internet either because they can't afford it or because they're living in an area where internet isn't just available. It just breaks my heart, and I would definitely invest some of that money to make sure that every American has equal opportunity to access this layer of life. It's a layer of life. And the rest of it, I would invest in electric vehicles. Now, why specifically electric vehicles? Because it's going to lead me to save more money. We spend about, I might be wrong with this number, $375 billion in oil every year. It makes us dependent on oil-producing countries in the world, and it makes our health unwell. When you combust oil, the exhaust that comes out, especially if you're living near highways, is really disruptive of our organism's functions, and our immune functions suffer. People have more chronic diseases who are living in those areas. People who are poorer live in those areas, and maybe someone needs to research if that's the reason, if there's a connection between where you live and how your body responds to COVID-19, for example. Anyway, when we convert our nation to use electric vehicles completely, when we gain complete freedom of oil, then we'll be saving $375 billion. And again, investing in people. Spiritual leaders are so important for our country. Give the spiritual leaders some support to help their constituents find peace and make meaning in their lives. Meaning is what drives us forward. Meaning, if you have meaning in your life, you can tolerate any hardship and you can overcome any challenge. So as we go through these transitionary times, I really hope that we get to offer our spiritual leaders more respect, more more opportunities to make services available to people they lead. They are leaders, and so they need to be treated as such. And I would definitely invest some money from that 375 billion that we'll be saving from oil independence into our religious institutions, our spiritual institutions, not just religions, but spiritual institutions where meaning is created about life. Would invest equally in science, in research. Everything that's making all these improvements possible is technology, is science. Without science, we'll be, blind and deaf in walking around, kind of feeling our way in the universe. The brain, the intelligence is the greatest gift that's been given to us, and science is the way to use that thing. So I would definitely invest some of that money in scientific research, in applications of scientific research in everyday life as well. And once you do that, I'm confident that we're going to have an explosion of new businesses, new prosperity come into our lives, because human beings are solution finders. I mean, once we get to learn new things, new ideas to implement those that new knowledge is going to come up naturally, and we're going to start creating new ways of living and exporting that into the world like we used to do. That's why America became America. I mean, we were so rich in the 40s and 50s because we were really ahead of our times in science and technology, and we were using that to spread that into the world, and we were changing the world, changing how people around the world were living, and we were making good money out of it. Let's be honest. So some of that money, $375 billion, and if you consider that most scientific research is being done right now with millions of dollars, like if a researcher gets $2 million, they're dancing. And when I got my first grant, it was $4.6 million. And I was like, I was feeling like I'm the greatest researcher ever to come to this earth. But that's how we do things. If you're working at a domestic violence shelter, for example, if you get a grant of $50,000, you're walking on air. You can do so much with that money. Now think, what would you do if you were able to donate or grant $2 million, $3 million for a shelter, for a domestic violence shelter? And if you were able to give $10 million for a researcher or research group. So there's so much opportunity just waiting out there, and we have so much to do to create new jobs, new money to come to this country. Some of that money, I think it was $25 billion. I'm not sure, I might be making a mistake here. That could completely eliminate hunger in this country. And I have a special pet peeve as a children's counselor. I worked with a lot of children who were experiencing hunger in their homes. And I personally just, very briefly, very mildly, nothing like what they were experiencing. I experienced it myself, and it leaves a mark on you. It leaves you with a sense of scarcity, and that's very painful for families. If by now they haven't received, their families haven't been lifted out of poverty already, those children's families must be, supported, and their families must be lifted as well. they're of priority as well. So right now, I'm just imagining what different areas would be important for me as a citizen who doesn't really know all of the details that are involved in making budgets and whatnot. But definitely these different categories of people in our country and the investment areas in healthcare, renewable energy, electric vehicles, and food supply should definitely be taken a look at, and they should definitely be optimized, re-optimized with the current scientific knowledge available to us today. As a clinician, I know healthcare a little bit more than others, a lot more than others, other fields that I'm talking about. So I hope experts weigh in what I'm saying here. But there's opportunities out there, and we're Americans. We take that opportunity. We take the lemons, we make lemonades, and we mass produce those lemonades, and we sell them to the world. So let's get to work, and let's stay optimistic, not give in to the sense of helplessness and chaos that seems to be all around us right now.